This is happening, and it's an attack on people of faith, and that's the problem with this.
But as you said, we are in a real state of crisis for LGBTQ people.
They are intentionally trying to offend Christians on the holiest of days by forcing gender ideology down their throats.
This is sort of a bit of a snapshot of all the states that have passed anti-LGBTQ laws.
The media loves a good clash of ideals, and the supposed battle between religious freedom and LGBTQ+ rights delivers. But, here's the thing. This isn't just about cakes, ceremonies, or even the law. It's about how society negotiates power, privilege, and whose rights matter most. Now let's start with a familiar case. Masterpiece Cake Shop versus Colorado Civil Rights Commission. In 2012, Jack Phillips, a baker in Colorado, refused to make a wedding cake for a same-sex couple, citing his religious beliefs. The couple, Charlie Craig and Dave Mullins, filed a complaint, and the case eventually reached the Supreme Court. The ruling narrowly focused on procedural issues and was widely misinterpreted by media outlets as a landmark decision for or against religious freedom and freedom of speech.
Well, it's religious freedom.
We got Jack's back? Yeah! Let me hear it. We got Jack's back. Come on! We got Jack's back. Come on! We got Jack's back.
But the real story here is about the societal message these cases send, that the rights of LGBTQ+ individuals are conditional, negotiable, and often seen as second to others' beliefs. And the media, in its framing, often amplifies this hierarchy without a question. After the ruling, Jack Phillips became a prominent figure in the media. His faith and his right to refuse were explored at length, with sympathetic coverage highlighting his struggles as a small business owner caught in a cultural storm. Outlets like CNN gave Charlie Craig and David Mullins some airtime to tell their side of the story, but these appearances were honestly few and far between. PBS, as well, featured both Phillips and the couple, but the story often circled back to the baker's challenges more than the couple's challenges.
Masterpiece is master. In Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, he says, no man can serve two masters. I wanted to have that as a focus of my life as a Christian, that I would be serving him in everything I do.
This isn't a balance. It's disproportionate. For every chance the couple had to explain how being denied service felt, how it impacted them and their community at large, Phillips was given multiple platforms to frame the case around his beliefs, his religious freedom, and his freedom of speech. Now, the story of Masterpiece Cake Shop isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a broader problem. When religious beliefs are used as a justification for actions that harm marginalized groups, it's not just a legal or cultural debate. It's a question of whose humanity we're willing to protect. And the same troubling dynamics are at play in the media coverage of Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. The Don't Say Gay bill, officially titled the Parental Rights in Education Act, prohibits classroom discussions of sexual orientation and gender identity in certain grades. Its proponents framed it as a defense of parental rights and traditional values, but critics warned that it effectively erased LGBTQ+ identities and stigmatized queer students and families. Just like with Masterpiece Cake Shop, the media often failed to interrogate the deeper implications of using personal beliefs to justify discriminatory policies. Governor Ron DeSantis, one of the bill's architects, became the central figure in media coverage. He spoke about protecting children and defending parents, a narrative that dominated the headlines and sound bites across news networks.
Make sure that parents are able to send their kid to kindergarten without having some of this stuff injected into their school curriculum.
The students and teachers whose lives would be directly impacted, well, they were treated like secondary players, their voices reduced to brief mentions or overlooked entirely. This framing isn't just about airtime. It reflects a deeper issue. This imbalance has consequences. It shifts the focus away from the harm inflicted on marginalized groups and instead validates discriminatory actions as legitimate debate. The idea that religious beliefs or parental preferences can be used to deny LGBTQ+ individuals their dignity and rights shouldn't be a neutral discussion. It should be critically examined and challenged, not even a debate at all. The normalization of religious beliefs as a justification for discrimination doesn't just exist in this vacuum. It's part of a larger cultural movement, a movement often tied to Christian nationalism.
I'm a Christian and I say it proudly. We should be Christian nationalists.
Christian nationalism ideology seeks to intertwine conservative Christian values with public policy. pushing for laws that align with a specific religious worldview, regardless of their impact on marginalized communities.
Biden thinking when he declared Easter Sunday to be Trans Visibility Day. Such total disrespect to Christians, and November 5th is going to be called something else. You know what it's going to be called? Christian Visibility Day, when Christians turn out in numbers that nobody has ever seen before.
Take the wave of bathroom bans sweeping the country. Proponents frame these policies as necessary to protect children. But let's just pause for a moment. I mean, how did we get to a point where targeting the basic rights of transgender individuals, like the right to literally use the restroom, is framed as a reasonable debate? Laws like these chip away at dignity, yet coverage frequently centers at the corners of those imposing the restrictions rather than those who suffer because of them. Even someone like Sarah McBride, the first openly transgender congresswoman, often finds herself fighting not just discriminatory laws, but the narratives that normalize them.
I didn't run for the United States House of Representatives to talk about what bathroom I use. I didn't run to talk about myself. I ran to deliver for Delawareans.
Instead of highlighting the harm that these policies cause, the media often amplifies the supposed fears and the religious beliefs that are driving them. And the result? Discrimination gets repackaged as a debate over values instead of an attack on people's rights. Something that's now exasperated by figures like Nancy Mace, who are getting far more airtime and coverage, even though it's ridiculous that this is how she is deciding to allocate her time. And this should be called out.
And I'm going to file even more legislation to protect women beyond the Capitol, across every state in the nation, because the simple question is, do women have rights or not?
And now let's add the cherry on top and add the push to put Bibles back into public schools. Advocates claim it's about restoring morality and tradition, but what does it really mean when the Bible, a deeply personal religious text, is prioritized, while books about LGBTQ lives, racial equity, racism, and history are being removed from library shelves? These actions send a clear message about whose voices belong and whose don't, shaping a cultural landscape where exclusion feels ordinary.
This is Hidden Figures. The movie was,
like from the movie?
Yeah.
This is the kids' version of the book from the movie.
Yeah.
And it's important to look at this, as Bell Hooks would, in an intersectional way. Intersectional analysis pushes us to move beyond surface-level debates and to ask these deeper questions that the media is failing to ask. Who's benefiting from these laws? Who is excluded? And how does the normalization of these policies maintain systems of power that are inherently unequal? And when we examine these questions, it becomes evidently clear that these policies serve to uphold structures of privilege. They benefit those who align with dominant cultural and religious norms while excluding those who do not, upholding the system of power and privilege. And while this video is about LGBTQ rights and issues, this is something that will affect everybody. It affects everybody that is not a Christian white male. The normalization of these laws don't just target individuals. It reinforces a societal hierarchy where certain identities are deemed more legitimate, valuable, or even moral than others. These policies create an us versus them dynamic, where conformity to a narrowly defined set of cultural and religious values is rewarded, while deviation from those norms is punished or erased. This reinforces systems of oppression by embedding discrimination into everyday institutions like schools, workplaces, public spaces, small businesses, and even Congress. The media should be able to call this out for what it is. This is normalized hatred. These religious beliefs that are being used as a foundation for policies that are erasing LGBTQ plus lives, putting them in danger. This doesn't just happen overnight. It happens step by step, headline by headline, until these actions, they feel ordinary, part of the fabric of our lives. But discrimination, no matter how normalized, is never acceptable, and it should not be accepted as a debate in the media.